Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So I don't know which video I'm gonna post first. I don't know which one is gonna be live first or upload first, but regardless, I am making my resources video. I'm calling it resources because I found that it was just the best way to title up what I felt like helped me pass my exam. Now, if you're new here, hi, my name is Ashley. I am a physical therapist. I can generally say that. I've always been a physical therapist, but I'm licensed now. I can work now in the States. I will do a quick backstory. So I went and did my doctorate in Australia. So I worked there for a little bit and made the decision to move back home to take the NPTE so that I could work here. Now, the journey to get here was intense. And what I found like getting to this point was that there was not a lot of information out there. There was not a lot of tools that I felt like I could refer to help narrow down a lot of questions that I had. And when I talked to other fellow colleagues, I found that they had the same issue as well. So I told myself, if I ever see myself or when I do make it to the other side, I'm going to dedicate a video to what I felt like helped me. What were the resources? What were the tools that I used and what I found the most useful for me? I would say this video is more geared towards foreign trained students. So if you're US trained, this video can help you 100%. But because I was foreign trained and because I found that there was lack of knowledge for foreign trained students, I will be addressing that heavily. You obviously have 6 times to take the exam. I've taken it 4 times. And I'm just gonna go through what I did wrong the first 3 times and what I did the 4th time to prepare myself for a passing score. I went to school in Australia, did my DPT there. I had no intention of coming back home to the States. When I did decide to come back to Texas, I realized that I had to face this demon of an exam, and I knew it was gonna be hard. I didn't know it was gonna take me 4 times, but I knew it was gonna be hard. So the first time I only purchased the, what book was it? Sorry, my notes are right here, so I don't go off topic. I only purchased the Therapy Ed book, okay? Because that one was the one that had the best reviews. And obviously, you know, there was the Therapy Ed book and then the Scorebuilders book. And I made the ultimate decision to, because I was so broke at the time and I was so cheap and I didn't think that I would need it. I really underestimated how much this exam was going to take for me as far as sacrificing time and, you know, sacrificing a lot of money. So I ended up choosing the Therapy Ed book. Now, the Therapy Ed book is amazing. I would say that is a book that you need. You need the Therapy Ed book. I got the book, I started studying for the exam in 2018, so I have the 2018 version, but obviously I still used it to help me pass the NPTE this time around. Get the newest version for you, okay? So just get the newest version for the time that you're taking the exam. There's no point in like getting a 2006 NPTE book because it's cheaper. Just get the most recent updated one. But for me, I didn't feel like I needed to keep buying a different book every time. Most of the information was gonna be the same anyway. So I first got the Therapy Ed book. My first mistake is that I didn't read the book. So you know that it comes with 3 practice exams at the back. I stupidly did no research on the NPTE. I had no idea about the scoring. I had no idea that, you know, it was more intense, more detailed. I assumed that the exams in the back of each book were old NPTE exams and that I was just gonna have to like memorize all of it, and that's exactly what I did. All 600 questions, I memorized it. Now I do have great memory, so that's honestly what carried me through PT school. And I will say that I barely made it through PT school. I did what I did to pass so that I can start working. I didn't obtain, I didn't absorb, I didn't apply the information. Like obviously we had clinicals, but I'm the type of person where I learn as I go, you know, like if I'm at MSK, musculoskeletal placement, I'm gonna learn all the things I need for musculoskeletal to get a good grade for my on my degree so I can pass. You know what I mean? But I didn't retain the information. I didn't keep it. I didn't remember it. So that when it came to the NPTE, they're asking simple questions like, where does your long head of biceps insert? I don't know. I didn't know. First time around, I did not read the book. I just memorized it, and obviously I failed it. I failed it poorly. And I'm gonna leave the score up here as well. After that first time, I cried. I cried as if I had really studied for the exam. But now looking back, I'm like, of course you failed it. So then the second time, instead of me buying, more resources, I was like, let me just actually read this book. That's probably why I failed it. And to be honest, I still would have failed it, and I did, but I would have probably not have failed it so poorly because a lot of the information that I felt like, I was like, that wasn't even one of the questions. Like, I felt so unprepared, and I felt cheated. Like, I felt like they lied to me, like the book lied to me, like y'all sold me this stupid book, and nothing on the NPTE was about this. And I remember reading through the book and being like, well, if I had read through the book, maybe we wouldn't be here. I would still have failed, but I wouldn't have failed so poorly. So I read through the book, and that was about the extent of what I did to study. I probably just read through the book again, and then I took the PEAT as well. And the PEAT, that's another resource that I would recommend. The PEAT, the PEAT, you need it. You definitely, especially the retired form. So it comes with two, the retired form, and then there's like a practice form. Could care less about the practice form. I'm the type of person where I want to mimic my experience as close to the actual exam as possible. And the retired form one does that. So I used the PEAT, and I also asked for an analysis of my first exam, thinking that it was going to give me the answers. It doesn't give you the answers. It doesn't give you the questions that you missed or anything. It just breaks down like what topic you need to work on the most. So basically for me, mine was musculoskeletal, cardio, and non-systems. And so I hated musculoskeletal. Neuro was my best subject. I always loved neuro, even in PT school. I recommend doing that if you fail, because it can, at first I was like, this is pointless, but what it showed me was like, the topics that I need to work on, and how like well my fatigue was as well, because it shows you how well you did in each section as far as like how many questions you answered right. Obviously there's 5 sections, 250 questions, and only 50 are unscored. So it's a 5-hour long exam, and it's intense. So there's a point where you get to the last 2 sections and you're just like, F it. Let me just click on something because I'm tired. So the second time I used the PEAT, I used the Therapy Ed book, the 2018 edition, and I believe that was it. I properly read through it, and I just had this fear that I was gonna fail again, and I did, because I just knew that it wasn't enough. Now I had the first time I took the exam, I took it the same day as one of my colleagues took it. So we both went to the same school in Australia, and she had ended up moving back to the States like 6 months to a year before I did. So she was telling me how she got this program and how she got these books. And I was like, I'm not doing all of that, because all I saw was dollar signs, and I had none of it. I had none. I had to borrow money from my parents to take the exam the second time. I remember just being like, I don't need all of that. And then after the second time I failed, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to purchase all these resources. So what I ended up doing was for the third time that I took the exam, I got the Scorebuilders book. I think another thing that I did, that was a mistake, was I took the exams back to back. Now, as you know, or if you don't know, you have a lifetime of 6 tries to take the exam. But you can only take the exam 3 times in a year. And As soon as that you use up the 3 times and you still fail, you have to wait 6 months before you take it again and try again. So I would say my biggest mistake was rushing, because 3 months, if you don't know anything, 3 months is not enough time if you're foreign trained and you really want to start from the beginning. Because what I would say is, we learned a lot in school. I'm not going to discredit that at all, but it is different. Like, the information is different. What they want you to learn is different. What they focus on in the States is different, because physical therapy in the States is different to physical therapy in Australia. It's different to physical therapy in India, in Asia, in Africa. You know what I mean? So I hadn't processed through that. Like, for example, in Australia, we didn't go much into details in our program about wound care and burns, where here it's like a major thing. Like, you need to know it. And so I just struggled with that. And that's kind of along the lines of like non-system. That was difficult for me. I just never liked MSK. So I hated the idea of having to learn every single muscle in the body, the innervations, the origins, the insertions. It overwhelmed me. I was like, just give me the main muscles I need to know. So those are my hardest subjects. And I would say it's 3 months is not enough time. It's a lot of information that you have to know. You have to know a lot of information for the NPTE. And not only do you have to know a lot of information, you need to know it well. Okay. And that's hard, because sometimes there's topics where you don't need to go that much into depth. And then there's topics where it's like, give a week just to focus on this. Okay. So the third time I took the exam, I had gotten all the books. I had purchased like 3 online programs. The first one I had purchased was Kyle Rice. So Kyle Rice Prep, I think that's what it's called. His whole thing is dominating the NPTE. And I first heard about him from the same person that gave me my Scorebuilders book. She was like, you have to listen to his podcast. They're so good. And they're so good, okay? I love Kyle Rice because you can tell he's passionate about it. Now, of the 3 programs I bought, I'm only going to talk about 2. The other one was, we just flick it out. It was trash. I'm not even going to mention it. I don't even have it on the list. I don't even remember the name of it. But Kyle Rice is passionate about what he does. Now, his whole thing is that, and I'll leave his link down below, but his whole thing is, his story is that he has failed multiple standardized exams. I think 13 that he has failed. And he went into PT. He actually wanted to be like, I think, a medical doctor. Didn't pass that exam. So he was like, well, let's try physical therapy. Got into physical therapy school, and from day dot started studying for the NPTE, because he knew his history with standardized exams were not great. So even though to everyone else it looked like he was doing a lot, to him he was like, I know what I have to do to prepare, and that's what I'm gonna do. He ended up scoring an 800 on his first try. And from then he was like, you know what, let me use what I took and help other students. And that's exactly what he did, especially for foreign trained students. Foreign trained students, you need Kyle Rice Prep. You need it. And for me specifically, because I'm such an anxious test taker, I would get down to the last 2 questions and I would just freak out. I would just black out. I ended up purchasing his test taking strategy playbook. 10 out of 5 would recommend in a heartbeat. You need it. You need it. Even if you're US trained and you still have that problem, you need it. Anybody, you need it. For any exam, you need it. He broke it down so well that by the 3rd time I went to go take the exam, I was like, not confident, but I was like, wow, I see the exam in a completely different way. He also has podcasts, which I would 100% recommend. He gives, in those podcasts, he gives like cheat sheets, so that for people that do only have 3 months to study, or are working, or are in school, they can focus on the information that they need to focus on. Because he did so well in the exam and he's been helping people for so long, he can easily say, okay, look, you don't need to really worry about that. These are the things you need to worry about. So he definitely does a great job at that. So he has podcasts. He has other courses as well. But I only got the test taking strategy one because by the third time, I realized that was what my issue was. And then what else? He also has a YouTube channel and he has a Facebook. So the Facebook is private. You have to be invited. You have to like request to be invited into it. Such good information. Such good information. So many like tricks and tips to help you remember certain things, especially like hormones and like electrolyte imbalances and like those types of things, like great mnemonics to help you remember things. Amazing. So I would definitely recommend Kyle Rice. Then I also got the PT final exam. I think that's what it's called. I think his name is William. Amazing. I like his because he gives you like a study guide so that if you have no idea where to start, at least you can start with his information. And it is thorough. It is very thorough, kind of overwhelmingly thorough, but looking back, I see why, because you need it. And then what I also like is that he gives you the same study book, but he takes out some information so that you have to apply it, if that makes sense, which I think it's at first I was like, this is so annoying, but I was like, you know what? This is so good, because if you know that information, there's no way you're going to fail that exam. So far for the third exam, I used the NPTE books, the Therapy Ed and the Scorebuilders. I used the Pete. I didn't really use the practice exams for either of those books. Not the third time I took it, because first of all, the Scorebuilders only has 200 questions. And like I said, I like to mimic the environment as close as possible. So that's why I didn't really look at Scorebuilders. But I did the Pete as well, which was stupid because the Pete is the same for like 4 or 5 years. So I purchased it again, but it was like really no point. Because I ended up killing it. Like I did so well on the Pete, but it was because I had remembered all the questions. Like naturally I had remembered it. So I did the Pete, the books, the Scorebuilders. I also used Physiopedia. That is like, it's like Wikipedia, but for physical therapists. Gold. Honestly, gold. I would say if you want more information, more in-depth information that the books can't give you, and you don't have access to all of the, US trained books, like I would say go to Physiopedia. It's so good. And KenHub. KenHub is great for muscles and like knowing your bones and your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments and knowing all of that. It's amazing. I also used Kyle Rice, so I used his test strategy course. I used his hit list. Oh, that's another thing. He had a hit list, and the hit list is really good, like I said, for people that are short on time, because he really focuses on the things that he felt like is crucial for, at least if you just want to pass, like, because his thing is dominating the NPTE. If you want to just pass, I feel like the hit list is great. But if you want to dominate and like score above a 700, then he has another course that you can take. I listened to his podcast. And then the PT final exam, they also had like these practice questions as well. And I did that helped. And then I also used the app Pocket Prep. And that's really good for your basic knowledge. So I still failed. But when I failed the third time, I failed like almost passing. I think I got like a 583 or something like that. And as frustrating as it was, it made me realize that I rushed. Like I rushed to take the exam. I just had a lot of pressure to pass this exam from my parents, from myself. I just felt like my life was on pause and I just wanted to pass it. And I felt like I knew a lot more than I did the first 2 times. And so it hurt that I failed it again, but if anything, it made me realize that I need to start from the beginning. Okay, so for a lot of you foreign trained students, if you were like me and you just barely passed, start from the beginning. I would say, like Kyle Rice did, start early. Give yourself time. Give yourself time to understand what you're learning, to understand how they're going to ask you the questions. Take the PEAT and use that as your Bible. Honestly, use the PEAT as your Bible, because the way they ask those questions in the PEAT is exactly how they're going to ask them on the NPTE. And if you can't understand how to use process of elimination, or use your keywords, or be able to pick the two last, you come down to two answers, you're like, if you're not able to do all of that with the PEAT, you're not ready for the NPTE. So the third time after I failed, I was like, you know what? After you fail, obviously, like, after you take it 3 times, you have to wait 6 months. And I was like, I'm not waiting 6 months. I'm gonna wait a year. I ended up taking a year. So what happened was COVID, coronavirus happened. And then what that did was it forced me to put my life on pause, because everybody else's life was on pause. And I didn't have the outside distractions. I didn't have the FOMO of fear of missing out, or like anything like that. All I had was time and time alone. And I had money from unemployment. So I was really winning. And so I was able to move out of my parents' house, which was a huge change in environment, which I really felt like was one of the reasons why I was able to do so well. As far as studying goes, I don't know how well I did on my exam, but I was able to move out. I was able to stack up on money. I was able to pay my rent, get food, pay for my registration, pay for all these other programs. And because of that, I ended up passing the 4th time. So the 4th time, the only thing I would say I did different was I took my time. I wasn't rushing. So I read through both of the books in its entirety again, like the Therapy Ed book and the Scorebuilders book. I ended up taking the Scorebuilders exam, not to like relate it to the NPTE, but because it has really good information. It forces you to realize, do you know your basics? Because a chunk of the NPTE is like simple questions. Honestly, simple questions. It's the way that they ask it that can make you feel like it's so difficult. But they're simple questions. And it's really that. It's a score building exam to build up your score. There's obviously simple questions, and there's the complicated, more intense questions, which I feel like Kyle Rice does a great job at explaining. I ended up being able to realize a lot of the mistakes I made in my notes. So I was able to compare my notes, and I was like, I rushed so much that I would flip up my words, or I'd flip around concepts, and I was learning a completely wrong concept and applying it to the exam. And it was just, I was so frustrated myself when I found that out. I was like, oh my gosh, if I had just taken my time, I would not be where I am right now. But I think everything happens for a reason. I started over with the muscles. I learned every muscle. I learned innervations, y'all. If there's anything you need to know about the NPTE, it's your innovations, because you can use that across the 3 most important topics or systems on the exam, which is MSK, CR, and Neuro. Innovations. Know your innovations. Know them like the back of your hand. Know your pathologies, and know the differential diagnosis between your pathologies. Know signs and symptoms. Know your special tests. Like, there's certain things that you need to know, because the bulk of the exam is carried there. So the 4th time I took the exam, I really took my time, because I had time. And I'm so grateful that, obviously 2020 has been for so many people in so many different ways. But I chose to look at the good in it. And the good in that was being able to focus on my exam, focus on this NPTE. After the 4th time, I went in it very confident. Like, I went in it like, I'm about to pass this thing. Even after I took it, I was like, I passed this thing. And you can ask all of my friends, like, I was like, yeah, it was actually kind of scarily easy. Like, I felt like I probably didn't pass it, because I know that sometimes they curve the exam depending on how easy or how difficult it is. And I was like, I wonder if I just got a really easy exam and I needed to do really, really well. And at first I was like scared, but I was like, no, it felt easy because I studied my off for it. Both books, the NPTE Therapy Ed book and the Scorebuilders book, you need that. Get the most recent edition for the time that you're taking the exam. Physiopedia, the website. KenHub, the website. Anything that has to do with Kyle Rice. Kyle Rice prep, look him up. Look up everything. Some of his information is completely free. You don't even have to spend a dime. And sometimes he does like these really good deals. The Pete, you need the Pete. And then I would say the Scorebuilders practice exams. I don't really care too much about the therapy ed practice exams. I didn't find that they helped me in any way, shape, or form. That's my personal opinion, but somebody else can tell you something completely different. The Scorebuilders practice exams are amazing. PT final exam and pocket prep. I like that app a lot. And they have different options. Yeah, so the whole process for me, obviously the whole process was annoying because I obviously had to be accredited and have my school, my classes transferred, and that took a chunk of time. And then finally, when it was accredited, I had to take the JAM, I think something like that, JAM. Then I had to register, and it was just a lot of money. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about how much money I put into this exam. But it don't matter now because your girl is licensed, your girl is official. I can work now, which is so amazing. And I feel like my life can finally move on. But I'm going to link all of my information. I'm going to link my email. I'm going to put all the resources that I use down below. I'm going to put my Instagram, my Facebook, all of that. So if you need to contact me, and if you have more, obviously I can't get into too much details, but if you have any other questions, please leave them down below or contact me personally, and I will be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I hope you stick around and watch my other videos. I'm really like a weird person, but you might like my other videos, my vlogs, and my travel videos. Anyways, bye guys.